prize. I accept this award today with an abiding faith in America and an audacious faith in the future of mankind. I refuse to accept despair as the final response to the ambiguities of history. I refuse to accept the idea that the isness of man's present nature makes him morally incapable of reaching up for the eternal oughtness that forever confronts him. I refuse to accept the idea that man is mere flotsam and jetsam in the river of life, unable to influence the unfolding events which surround him. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. I refuse to accept the cynical notion that nation after nation must spiral down a militaristic stairway into the hell of nuclear annihilation. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. This is why right temporarily defeated is stronger than evil triumphant. I believe that even amid today's mortar bursts and whining bullets, there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow. I believe that wounded justice, lying prostrate on the blood-flowing streets of our nations, can be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men. I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. I believe that what self-centered men have torn down, men other-centered can build up. I still believe that one day mankind will bow before the altars of God and be crowned triumphant over war and bloodshed and nonviolent redemptive goodwill proclaim the rule of the land. And the lion and the lamb shall lie down together, and every man shall sit under his own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. I still believe that we shall overcome.
As another war is declared and innocent people, children, become a statistic or a number in the pages of history, I feel like hope is fading and the dream of a more compassionate humanity feels distant. Yet the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as he received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, serves as a powerful reminder not to surrender to despair. I've always found it challenging to comprehend the human inclination to harm, to hate, and oppress. It baffles me when individuals who have themselves endured abuse perpetrate it unto others. I've never grasped the desire to subjugate or dominate those who are different or unfamiliar. Perhaps it's because my heritage spans across the continents of Africa, Europe, India, and China. reflecting a rich tapestry of diverse cultures, commonly labeled mixed race or mulatto. And as a child of many cultures, I've learned to navigate the complexities of intersectionality. In this unique position, I've come to understand that I'm part of many worlds, and yet I've also felt like I didn't fully belong to any one of them. I've wrestled with not feeling Black enough, or Indian enough, Portuguese enough, Chinese enough. And this is them telling me that I'm not enough. But embracing this intersection, I've discovered a wellspring of beauty, strength, adventure, intelligence, and profound humanity within each facet of my ancestry. I am proud of it. And yet it's been equally perplexing to witness how some deny each other's shared humanity and choose not to recognize it. I pray that one day we see the humanity in each other, the beauty, the uniqueness, the richness, and that our lives are a gift, the greatest gift to be treasured, that no one should have the right or not to take it away from us.
Falling asleep late in the night when I think you're listening to me. And I've told you when you're beside me, it feels unfamiliar, feels like strangers in the sheets. Well, I know you, at least I do once. I keep waking up till you're gone. Is it just me, or do you feel something missing? Feel something missing?
Thank you for being here, and I hope you stay until the end. I've had episode 2 ready a few days back, but also it took quite a while to put it together because things kept happening. My laptop crashed at one point and I lost some of the audio. Then some of the other things I wanted to develop or get were not turning out the way I sort of wanted it to. And things kept getting deleted or the upload wasn't working properly. And it sort of sent a message to me. I was fighting something that wasn't meant to be. And I take sort of these signs or signals that the universe sends us seriously. So I thought, maybe this is not what I'm supposed to share or upload. Maybe I should think about this differently. And I'll be completely honest with you, the last week it's been rather tough. So I wanted to sort of get my thoughts in some coherent way together and share that with you. I've debated back and forth whether I should bring what is personal to me to the public space. People watching or listening to this don't really know me, and without a doubt will have an opinion on what I feel and what I decide to share. Look, I presently live in a peaceful, democratic country. At one point or another, we were known as peacekeepers. On any given day, my worries are about being a good person in the world. Make sure I achieve and outperform my responsibilities as an employee, because it provides me with a comfortable life, a roof over my head, food, and a few niceties. And I worry about will I find romantic love and share that very close bond that exists in that special partnership. I have amazing friends. We look out for each other and take care of each other. I love my family, and I try each day to make them proud. And when they think of me, I always want them to think of me and have a smile on their face. Good words would come to them as they describe me. That's part of who I am. I have never been in a war zone or been in a war. I would never compare the uneasiness of being in a dangerous part of a city or getting caught in the middle of protest that turns violent to what happens in war. I am known for having a sensitive soul, my friends would say. I would say that has to do a lot with my upbringing. And in fact, as I said in my prologue, my heritage comes from different lands. And being in the intersection of these cultures have given me a bird-eye view advantage of culture, traditions, identity or identities. I've been afforded the luxury of higher education, of travel, and my friends are from different parts of the world, and we often share the stories of our people and have discussions that sometimes are quite intense, but they're always illuminating. And we learn from each other, we see each other. All of this has been afforded to me and formulates my point of views. And I've always been an inquisitive mind, always questioned. My questions usually are about, what are we not told? What happened to that other story? Whose story and whose version are we hearing? Who is cast as the good guys? And if we have good guys, then we have bad guys or the villains. The easy and fastest way for us to form opinions is to accept that premise, when the real truth is more complicated and harder to cast a complete set of people as one thing or another. I have said the reason why I pay such attention to the journey of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, is what is happening to them is a message for all of us to receive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Some may say, look, they have privileged lives, they're rich and famous. What should we care what happens to them or how they're treated? I would argue, because if it can be done to them, the rich, the famous, the privileged, then we collectively stamp it in our brain, in our consciousness, consciously or unconsciously, to know our place. Messages are sent to us to never dare to enter spaces in which we do not belong. The way we think and the beliefs we have all been constructed and fed to us. Believe it or not, even religion, some may debate that with me. As a young child, I loved gladiator movies. It often showed a world that fascinated me, a world of beauty, and at the same time, cruelty. It was hard to ignore how vicious they were. And they prayed to different gods. Some prayed to the sun, the moon. It was all very different to me. And I often had one question. Since I was brought up in the Christian faith, I would ask, well, what happened to those people when they died? Did they go to hell? Because they didn't know Jesus. They didn't know to say, save me. They didn't repent for their sins. So where did they go? What if they were good people? I mean, for sure the bad ones went to hell. But what if they were good people? But they didn't know Jesus. Jesus is the only way to salvation. Whether it was a priest or a pastor, they looked at me, oh, this stupid little kid. And they would brush my question aside. Never thought much of it, but at the same time it left this lingering feeling. Why would they not answer me? You see, we tell stories we want people to believe. If those stories are questioned, or the narratives that we are telling, if they're questioned at all, then they may indeed shake the foundation of the stories of which civilizations are built on. Because once you accept one version of a story, then any other version is wrong and incorrect. And you will defend the version that you've been told from generation to generation to generation, from centuries ago. It's ingrained in our mindset. You know, I once watched a clip of a woman, this is not so long ago, a woman of color falling to her knees, almost weeping at the sight of King Charles. Yes, this King Charles. She then crawled on her knees towards his feet as he entered into her place of employment. I was fascinated by this. I wanted to get to know her. I wanted to know her story, her journey in life, and the messages that was fed to her. Here she was, who seems to be any ordinary person, hardworking. The sight of a man that got his position by inheritance, given the name king, and exalted to the highest positions of society, she fell to her knees and almost in this interesting cry of adoration, crawled. What was she told? What are the stories that she believes in? I have 2 degrees, and in both of my commencement ceremonies, we received instructions that traditionally you're supposed to get on stage and you kneel in front of the university chancellor. As I was in line, I kept thinking, well, I don't know this person. Why would I have to kneel in front of? I really have to? Like, they didn't help me in any of my studies. They didn't pay my tuition. I don't know them. Everything I've done, I did it with my own hard work and sweat. So why am I kneeling in front of them? What have they done in order for me to give them that kind of exaltation? And as this is going rapidly in my head, and I'm seeing the people in front of me just follow the order, I kept going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I mean, why would I be so vulnerable, submissive, and give this person with some kind of authority by kneeling in front of them? I couldn't find a good reason, so I didn't. I just stood there, and he looked at me like I had 5 heads, and I just stood there. And once he realized that I was going to kneel, it was sort of this reluctantness of just handing me over my degree. But I felt almost naked standing there. But all those questions kept coming to me. The things we do, why we do them, and the people that we give authority to, and that we follow, the things we believe, and we follow, the things that have been passed down to us, and we follow. This week, I've been very mindful of the storytellers, the tone, the words used to describe the situations and people, the symbols used, from the reporters to the analysts in studio, to the presenters, the anchors, the politicians, and ordinary people who are asked in the streets, what do they think? More often than not, one side of a story is told in a certain way, in a certain tone, for us to have empathy for one and deny that same empathy to another. As I said before, stories need to create the good guy and the bad guy. Storytelling is the most powerful weapon. Bombs and bullets kill. They end a life or lives. Storytelling lives on for eternity. And from those stories, generations after generations may carry the poison of hate or letting go of those heavy burdens and create something anew. To forgive. Forgive our ancestors. To forgive the ancestors of the other. But that takes courage. And the world is lacking such courage. And leaders that will stand up and have courage. We people, humans, we endlessly seem obsessed with building walls and demonizing the other, the things we don't understand, or the people we don't understand. Oh, that person has blue hair. Oh, how disgusting. Oh, that person talks a certain way, walks a certain way. That person chooses to love. Oh no, that's disgusting. We're always looking to other and to make ourselves feel better. Assigning the wrongs of one person to an entire set of people. Oh, well, once I was in this store and this person stole. Those people are like that. That's what they do. We assign the sins or the error of one to an entire set of people. We always seek to kind of subjugate and punish those that live outside of whatever norms we've decided is the right ones. We punish those that don't believe in our ideologies. We force people into subjugation. We make them do things by law or otherwise. We feed constantly the information we want people to believe in. And soon enough, so many of us, we don't know why, we don't know how, but we hold an ideology about a people. We hold an ideology somehow hating maybe one person or another. We don't know why, we don't know how, we just do. This conflict is not new. Innocent people die, children die and suffer. And from their trauma, we breed a new generation to keep the conflict alive. As a youngster, all I knew was that my Christian faith assigned to me the good guys who I should always defend. As an adult, I've read, I've equipped myself with knowledge of history, of what happened, decisions that were made in that region, who made those decisions, and how did we end up where we are presently. And I will say this, Western nations have a lot to accept accountability for. For many of the conflicts in that region, not only the Israeli-Palestinian, we have exploited, divided their lands. We have sided with the people that were in our financial benefit. We have toppled governments, then left them and just washed our hands and said, well, that's not our business anymore. And will never recognize the role that we played in today's festering of hate and dehumanization of people. Often I hear people say, well, we have nothing to do with that. Oh, well, why are we sending help to these people? Why are we doing that for? Well, they're the ones who did this first. Oh, well, I don't care for those. That's far away. But we live out the same hate from faraway lands in our own spaces. We bring in the same demonization or things that we've learned from passed down from generations to generations to generations. Whether you go far away from your land looking for peace, we still have the same hateful ideologies that have been passed down from generation to generation to generation. Whether it's hate towards Jewish people or whether it's hate towards Muslim people or Christians. Storytelling has the most power in our lives. You might not see this connection, but allow me to give you this example that you might not think it's a worthy example, but it is an example. The words, the images, the phrases continually used in many of the UK media, even within the walls and on air of the very respectable BBC, have more than often painted a picture that tells us a story that dehumanizes one woman, a woman of Black biracial heritage. In their newspapers, and in this newspaper particularly, was widely published an article from a famous man in which he wrote, dreaming of the day when she, Megan, is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain, while crowds chant shame and throw lumps of excrement at her. Now you might have heard this, you might have read it, and you may think, oh, what's the big deal? She's privileged. She married into a royal family. Those words don't matter. He may even argue, as he did at the beginning, oh, this was just me mentioning Game of Thrones. It has nothing to do with how I really feel about her. But you said that's how you felt. That's your desire, your fantasy. You dream of this. And we all know, no matter how much we may say, oh, well, he didn't mean it. He's a good man. I know him. We know the truth. Deep down, we all know the truth. Some of us just don't want to say it out loud, and others, they just keep quiet or to defend because it benefits them. Now, keep in mind, he didn't say this about any other royal or any other princess. He didn't say it about Catherine. He didn't say it about Beatrice or Zara or Eugenie. Even if he had said it about any one of them, it would have been deplorable, disgusting. But he didn't. He said it about the first Black biracial woman to marry a prince in the line of succession to the British royal throne. This same man was seen dining with the present Queen Consort, known as Queen Camilla, during the days when this all exploded or happened. So what does that tell us? What message does that send us? Because there is a message in there. He felt comfortable enough to write that. His editors, the owners of the newspaper, they thought it was good enough to publish it. And people read it. Now, after a few complaints, the Media Watch group in the UK did what watch groups say they do. They did investigation. You know what they found? They said the article was sexist. That's it. The article was sexist. Now, think for a minute. I don't care what side you think you're on or the things you believe. I want you to just think, use your brain and think for 1 minute. If those words were written about your child, your daughter, your sister, your wife, your mother, your loved one, the system just said, it was just sexist. That's it. The storyteller has succeeded. In the minds of many, that is the way now that they will see this woman. Good or bad? Because you can't unsee, unhear those words. Many can now reinforce because someone famous, a newspaper published it. So now many can reinforce their opinion about, well, she's just a complainer, she's a whiner, she's a bully. She hates the British. She hates our traditions. Oh, she's not right for the job. Oh, she breaks protocol all the time. So there's justification now. She's not one of us. So it's okay. The storyteller has succeeded. They wrap it all and deliver it. The racism that was hidden and still is behind the cloak of the Queen, the late Queen. You would hear people say, oh, this has nothing to do with race. I'm not a racist. Did you hear that she upset the Queen? Did you hear that she was rude to the Queen? Did you see the way she curtsied? Oh, beloved, how can she do that to the Queen? They used the cloak of a queen that they knew would not say anything to justify their racism, to justify hate, to publicly humiliate this woman, a woman that most of them don't even know. On a daily basis, and I mean daily, the British public is fed a dose of let's hate Meghan medicine. And you may think I'm joking. For any one of you who don't live in the UK, I don't live in the UK. But I've been watching this and taking notes because it's a story that I'm interested in. Look, I'm biracial too, actually, I'm multiracial. And I'm fascinated with the stories that are told about us. I'm fascinated by how we navigate certain spaces. And to think that across all medium in the United Kingdom, People are fed every single day. I mean, on TV shows, daytime shows, in the newscast, every single day there's a story about Meghan. Even when you didn't hear from her for 2 years, there's stories fed about her. And the hate that is just allowed to fester. And one day, even for the people that say that they don't care about any of this, they wake up and they find themselves hating this woman, hating this one woman. Just, I don't know why, but there's something about her I don't like. There's something about her that just, I feel kind of icky about. I don't know why. Storytelling and storytellers have extraordinary power. But this conflict is not about Meghan or Harry. It's really about innocence and who gets to tell our stories and which stories are amplified. It is said that he or they that control the media controls society. Many of you may know of a certain person that owns a lot of TV stations and networks around the world. And you can measure the increase of hate. You can measure the misinformation that is fed to a society and to people when his ideology is allowed into a certain marketplace. Good people are convinced to believe things that are not real. To hear someone say derogatory things and then told, oh, he did never said that, no. Who gets to tell the story? How is it amplified? Who feeds to our darkest sides? When you look beyond the loud voices of so-called quote-unquote strong men and the agents of war, their mothers, their fathers, their sons, daughters, their people, humans that just want peace, to live a long life and a happy one, to sing their songs, to dance, to laugh, to celebrate. It has almost become predictable how quickly we destroy the voices that call out for peace. We silence them. We silence them either by gunpoint, we throw them into prisons, character assassination, or use all political and our status to destroy them. They're not one of us. Look, Hamas is not the representative of all Palestinian people, and the Israeli government is not the representative of all Jewish people. I vote. It's one of the rights that I treasure from the day I turned 18. I voted in every single election to elect the government, whether at a provincial, a local, whether it's at a federal. I vote, I show up. I do not care how much it takes me, I vote because that is my voice. That's the way in the system that I live in, that I get representation. Who gets to tell the story? Right? And we keep destroying the people that are screaming out loud for peace. You see, us, the people, we are more pragmatic. Most of us reject hate. We want to see, and we do see, the humanity in others. But we have these profit centers dependent on us dehumanizing each other, that we stay slaves to ideologies of fear and anger. We demonize people. I sat at a table once, and I was the only person of color on that table. And these are people I liked. These are people that I really had a very close affection and love for. And as they talked about a coming election in the US and the possibility of having the first black man, biracial black man as the president, they said a couple of things that I thought, oh my gosh, is this what you really think? This is how you feel? And by all means, I was like, these are educated people. So where does that come from? Where does that ideology come from? Does it come from the safety of their enclaved neighborhood that is guarded by security? Is it because everyone around you look the same? We were at a restaurant and in the same neighborhood with the same family, and a neighbor came to the table and she said, "Oh, isn't that nice? You brought the gardener to dinner." She thought I was the gardener. I love gardening, by the way. But I kept thinking, wow, what stories have been fed to you? What are these things that you believe? What assumptions you have made? What sins am I to pay for the actions of one? You know, when you exist in these intersectionalities, you're able to kind of look around you and you see the pain and suffering. You see the anger. You see the misconceptions of how we evaluate people and how we cast these roles for them. And once you've been cast a role, once your story has been told a certain way of you, of a people, and has been told over generations, it's very difficult to have your voice heard. Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1967, "If we are to have peace on earth, our loyalties must become ecumenical rather than sectional. Our loyalties must transcend our race, our tribe, our class, and our nation. And this means we must develop a world perspective." Look, we all feel comfortable in our tribes. Why do we even have to go to our tribes in order to feel accepted? And many of us sometimes don't even get that acceptance in our own tribe. It has always troubled me how easily we all accept these horrors. How we just accept whichever story is the loudest, the one that is told more often. When Russia invaded Ukraine, I went into work, attended all my meetings, And it was as if nothing was happening. As if there wasn't an exodus of people, of suffering. I was fascinated by this sort of tunnel vision that we are told we must have. Compartmentalize. I'm not saying that word correctly, I apologize for that. Tunnel vision. We must concentrate on the market, concentrate on profitability, on our organization and logistics as to how we're going to keep operations going. How quick we just carry the notion of this is not going to affect me or doesn't affect me. It has nothing to do with us. It belongs elsewhere. We just carry on. I don't know how people do it. I find it all very challenging. I mean, it's not healthy because you have to make sure you're taking care of your mental health also. But I keep wondering sometimes, where I live, our city is about 2 million people or so. And I think about 1 million plus of us being told that you need to move into another corner and you have these many days, move out of what I know, my neighborhood, where I live, everything, or you will be destroyed and bombed. And I don't know. I don't know how it feels like to be living in your neighborhood and you are going around your day, said your prayers, or you get up, you give the kiss to your partner, you said goodbye to your kid or children, and you started breakfast or turn on the news, and within minutes all of that has changed. People enter into your home, you're slaughtered, you're kidnapped. It's all pain, it's all hurt, it's all the darker side of humanity. Who tells our stories? Who tells our stories? Imagine the horror of if, when Ukraine was invaded, if all the borders were closed off to the Ukrainians fleeing and they had nowhere else to go. What if all power, all food supplies were then denied? What happens then? Would we stand by idle and say, well, Russia has the right because some Ukrainians came in and they did this? Look, again, I'm not taking sides there. I'm questioning how leaders, the people we give power to, who gets to make these decisions on our behalf. No one can ignore suffering of the Jewish people and what happened in Israel. No one should and could ignore it. Do we ignore the Palestinians that don't support Hamas? And they want the same life of freedom, of movement, celebrate traditions, culture. The things we want as people, as humans, are really simple. And so often they're denied. Why? Who gets to tell our stories? Who gets to play the villain and who gets to play the good guys? Let me ask you something. How much do you know about Armenia? How much do you know about its history, about its people? Have you heard or seen anything about Armenia in the news lately, the last couple of months? If you haven't, well, you haven't. If you have, I would say, what have you learned, or what's the story that was told? I'm going to read something to you. It's from Time magazine and it's written by Christina Maranci. And the headline is, "What Cultural Genocide Looks Like for Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh in Azerbaijan." September 2023 saw the tumultuous and traumatic departure of over 100,000 Armenians from Nagorno-Karabakh. This mass exodus of an indigenous people from their homeland followed 9 months of starvation by blockade, which culminated in a murderous military assault on September 19th. These men, women, and children, terrified for their lives, left behind entire worlds, their schools and shops, their fields and flocks, vineyards, the cemeteries of their ancestors. They also left behind the churches, large and small, ancient and more modern, magnificent and modest. These churches where they had for centuries gathered together and prayed. They also left behind bridges, fortifications, early modern mansions, and Soviet-era monuments such as the beloved "We Are Our Mountain" statues. What will happen now of those places? There is no question, actually. The author asked. You know, I've had to stop this recording a couple of times and just collect myself because my voice kept breaking and I kept getting quite emotional. And what you're hearing is just my raw thoughts. You know, I've just been troubled and of how we exist as people. I don't know if I'm more sensitive than the other, if I look at things differently than others. I just have such difficulty comprehending. You know, the Palestinian people deserve better. They have the right to exist, to live. The Jewish people, they have the right to exist and to live. I don't know if we ever learn, because we've been going at this for centuries. We create these stories and villainize the other. What a few may do, we blame it on the entire culture or population or entire set of people. In some points, in some countries, they have laws where, or in some states, I'm not sure, but there's laws as if your child does something, you are completely responsible and the entire family is punished. Now, I'm not taking away responsibility of parents to make sure that their child is behaving in a manner that's acceptable for us all. But there are other circumstances that make that child act up or make that child make certain decisions. Circumstances that we tend to ignore, circumstances that we don't want to admit, that we have inflicted. I don't know, maybe it's part of our tendency to disregard the life of others. As long as it doesn't pertain to ours, then that's okay. It's generations of storytelling that's passed on to us with a dosage of a little bit of poison. Because you have to have consumed a little bit of poison generation after generation to hold some of the thoughts that you hold, to hold some of the beliefs that you hold. I don't know. Maybe everything I'm saying is just nonsense. As I said before, standing in this place of intersectionality, the cultures that run in my blood, from which the DNA is composed, that made me, they come from all over the place. And as I stand here, as I said, I see pain. I see suffering, the inhumanity, how we treat each other. I see how the champions of hope and peace, how they're kicked down, they're jailed, they're silenced, a gun is put against their head. But I'll tell you this, they do rise. They always will rise. There will always be people. As long as we exist, I am confident that there will be people who will scream still at the top of their voice. We want to live, to exist in peace. Let there be peace. We will have the John Lewises of our different cultures and traditions that will stand up and say, you can beat me down, but I will stand again until my people see peace, until there is peace, until we're able to see each other as people that suffers, that cries when our loved one dies, that celebrates at the birth of a child. I've tried to keep my thoughts to be as balanced as I could, because it's not a story about the war, it's about the people and the suffering. Who gets to tell those stories? Which ones do we choose to ignore? I don't want anyone to be just taking sides. A wrong is a wrong is a wrong, but I would like people, if they get anything out of this, is to think about the people, think about the stories that are being told to you. And which stories will you believe and which ones you decide to neglect or just not believe. There's conflict and war happening in so many places around our planet, and we know so little about them. Which stories do we get to know? Which ones are ignored? Which genocides are ignored? We have been somehow convinced that kindness, measured and thoughtfulness are for weak. It's for weak people. I think those are the strongest people. How quickly we forget that leaders that sell us these snake oils of strength and exercise their strength by punishing, by pointing at another that may not be the same as us, not walk the same, talk the same, maybe not believe in our traditions or cultures, that they are the ones we should hate. We're all in the business of looking for simplistic answers to complicated issues. And we elevate those leaders. We elevate the leaders that take us into war. We elevate the leaders that make us hate the other. War is profit. War makes a lot of people very rich. When the voices of reason and the voices of hope and the voices of peace and the voices that will tell the truth, those storytellers are denied access. Those storytellers are quickly, as that so famous man in the UK would say, stripped and paraded on the streets, and excrement is thrown at them. Think about that. Nelson Mandela said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of their skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." Why are we so afraid of it? And why do so many people find comfort and believe in poisonous ideas that affect us? And we blame an entire culture, an entire people for things that one or a bunch may commit. I don't know if we'll learn, but I do know that there's going to be, and there is always, as long as there's that tradition of war and conflict, there's people who are going to stand up and say, "Not in my name. I want peace. I don't hate these people. I want peace." Thank you for listening. Please be kind to yourself. Be kind to your loved ones and those along your path that you meet. Be kind. Thank you.